24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Do you remember the musical Hair by chance?
Yes.
Do you remember the musical Hair? I don't think I saw Hair on stage. I know I saw the movie, but way before I ever saw the movie, I was just in love with the musical soundtrack. I was a kid, in the 60s, and there was a line in the musical where one of the main characters says, "I believe in God, and I believe that God believes in Claude. That's me." And I believe, in other words, he is Claude. My own belief in God is kind of a trail of simple acceptance when I was a child, to questioning when I was an older teenager, to really reading and trying to understand and wanting to believe, and then deciding, gosh, I'm not so sure what I believe, and then thinking, well, Jesus was just a man, and then think, no, Jesus was more than just a man. Jesus was what we were taught he was. And I've come full circle with this whole thing. Now at the age of 60, I kind of believe it exactly the way it was taught to me, but it was a long trail of thinking, and it is kind of uncomfortable, I guess, when somebody says to me, well, if you were logical, you would not believe in God. We've had guests who said that. I'm thinking, well, hello. I think I'm probably. I'm not saying I know anything about God. I'm just saying I think there is some intelligence out there that made us and made everything. In fact, what is intelligence? Is a tree intelligent? It knows how to grow, and is a bird intelligent? It certainly knows how to find it. It's more intelligent than me in some cases. They can find a fish from 100 feet up or something. Kevin Moody, I was looking at some of his information. It sounds like he has gone through the same sorts of questioning, re-questioning, and examining. And I think that God probably wants us to do that. I don't know why, but I'm sure that he wouldn't have made us curious and analytical if he didn't want us to be. Kevin is more than just a radio host, though, which is all I am. Kevin is a physicist.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It says here he's also an atheist turned conservative Christian. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. He is a Christian watchman. Not so sure what that means. And he's written a book called The Battle of Fort Rock, God's Battle for Kent State in 1990, a Christian occult thriller novel based on the true story of how my attempt, which would be his attempt, to build a perpetual motion machine led me, meaning him, to become friends with Kent State hippies. Kevin Moody. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Where are you?
How you doing?
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South Bend, Indiana, my hometown.
South Bend, Indiana.
Yes.
How is the weather up there?
Well, it's sunny and cool, about 40-some degrees, maybe about 50 by now at 9:30 in the morning.
Oh, my.
Tell me what your thoughts are on what I said in the opening. Any feedback on that?
I think that I went through a similar thought process. For it to become complete, it took about 20 years. I started out as an atheist and wound up becoming a Christian who would be able to be a friend to the hippies in Kent, and perhaps even help change the course of history there in 1990.
So did you attend Kent in 1990?
1998 through 1990, I was attempting a PhD in physics.
Oh, okay.
At the time, I wasn't good enough to get the PhD, but I think God's purpose for me in Kent was different than that.
Do you know, I have often thought that when Jesus said, you need to believe in me, or people say you need to believe in Jesus to be saved, I always thought, well, maybe he meant to say, or they mean to say, you need to believe as I believe. In other words, you could be any religion as long as you believe as he believes. And in other words, treat one another nicely, and don't steal and all that. But I think I'm wrong. I think you have to believe in him, not just believe as he believed.
Yes, I mean, Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins, and we need to love Jesus more than anything. I just struggle with it. I mean, this is America, and we get distracted a lot of times, But that's where we need to be.
As a physicist, how does that even make sense? I'm not questioning it because I believe it.
It does make sense. I mean, if a person were to study some things in classical dynamics called the Lorentz transformations, the timetable God gave in Genesis could be true, and the timetable given in evolution could be true. You see, there's God time and there's Earth time.
Yeah, I like that.
Entirely different frames of reference. In fact, I think if I sat down, I could calculate the velocity that the pearly gates are moving relative to Earth, and come up with the scale of the factor that would scale the time between Earth and heaven. But I'm not sure that would even be right, because things change with God. God is God, and his laws are bigger than anything we understand. But Lorentz and Einstein kind of gave us a perspective where evolution could appear to be correct, and it could still be God's creation.
I think the same thing. I thought the same thing. Why? I mean, why is it so hard to believe that God couldn't create whatever we evolved from? And why isn't it? I mean, doesn't the car I drive now have roots that connect back to the Ford Model T?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that evolved.
Well, it's just hard for people to grab under the idea. I think, you know, it was a learning experience for me that basically started in 1970 when I became an atheist, and ended in Kent, Ohio, with friendships in Kent, and probably still goes on today in some way.
Well, I kind of love your honesty, and I love talking about this. I want to make sure that we're fair to the book, because you've done a whole book, so we want to be fair to it. But you've got such a fascinating biography. I just kind of wanted to kind of swap notes a little bit. So you're a physicist. I just do a radio show, so you've got more of a brain than me. But here's the thought I've had, is that if we're all wavelengths in some sort, and stop anything I'm saying that you think is wrong. Are we wavelengths of some sort?
Yes, according to quantum theory.
Okay. Which
may be proven wrong someday, but it seems like we're all waves and we're all particles at the same time.
Of some sort, yeah. And so in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus says, on earth as it is in heaven. And that to me means that one day we won't need locks. Yeah. We won't need to worry about somebody coming in and shooting me or taking my stuff, because everybody's going to be good to one another, because it's going to be on earth as it is in heaven. Mm-hmm. And so,
yeah, well, you see, I think that God's trying to develop us into the creatures that He wants us to be. There is a sieve. If we don't obey Him, we could wind up down there. But I don't really want to talk about that too much.
Okay. But here's my thinking, and this is where wavelength comes in. As a musician, and I'm a musician, so if I play, a really loud, turn up the amplifier and play an A note or something, and let's say it's flat. The more I sharpen it, the more I make it to a true A, the more likely the A on the guitar will vibrate all by itself, because it's, well, not by itself, but because it's resonating from the A that it's hearing, so to speak, that it's being affected by. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an experience musicians have, you know.
So if Jesus is a wavelength, and we are slowly but surely trying to be tuned to that, then that's why believing in, am I making any sense at all? Or is this just kind of...
Well, I think that it's good quantum theory.
Yeah.
But I think the gospel is a lot more simple than that.
Yeah, I know, but you know, I'm trying to figure out a way to explain it to atheists. You somehow made the transition, but I was trying to figure out a way. How do you explain?
What, you know, one of the biggest things is that physics itself says that God time and man's time, or Earth time, is not the same. The Bible says it. The Lorentz transformation hints at it.
So then, therefore, if God made the earth in one day,
that could be one God day up in Mount Zion, but that could be 10 billion years here on
Earth. Right.
Mm-hmm. And you can actually calculate the speed pretty close to the speed of light, I think. You can actually calculate the speed one travels relative to the other, and it would be good physics theory.
Can I ask your age? You said you were in college in the 70s.
No, I was in college
in the 90s. I'm sorry.
70s, yes.
Okay.
I'm about 58 years old.
Okay, so you're about the same age as we are. We're 60. Yeah. So you went to school late in life, didn't you?
Well, I think that I went to school later, to graduate school a little later in life than what most do.
Okay.
When they, are you surprised that every year they still have the memorial ceremony at Kent State?
I'm not a bit surprised. I think that until Alan Canfora dies, they're going to remember that every year, and perhaps students will carry the tradition on. We have to respect that, you know.
I remember that day very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
yeah, and I sometimes think it could have been avoided.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If
yeah.
we had listened, if our older generation listened to the younger generation, that riot and perhaps a lot of protests on our college campus could have been stopped or quelled.
So that's a good segue to the book. So can I ask everybody can just hang on there because we have to take a little break and then we'll be right back. Thank you for taking us where we needed to go, Robin, by the way. We want to talk about the book. It's called The Battle of Fort Rock. So I've been talking religion enough. Not that we're going to stop that, but Kevin Moody is on the phone and he's written this wonderful book called The Battle of Fort Rock. So let's find out about the book on the other side of the break. We'll take that break right now and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Watch for strong rip currents over the next several days along the coast. Times of clouds and sun today with a high of 88 to 92, then mostly cloudy tonight, low 72 to 76. For tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sun with a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 86 to 90. For Friday, partly sunny with a shower or thunderstorm likely, high 84 to 88. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
If you're anything like I was, the thought of getting older was the last thing on your mind. But here we are. For me, it started slowly. The lack of energy, never being in the mood, and when I was, I could never perform at my best. I tried the pills and other treatments with minimal results, and all but given up on my sex life. Then I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my
too.
seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking, will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We have on the phone Kevin Moody. He is in Indiana, right? So we said he's in Indiana?
South Bend.
He's talking about his book, The Battle of Fort Rock. Actually, we haven't talked a whole lot about the book, so we'll do that right now. God's Battle for Kent State in 1990, a Christian occult thriller novel based on the true story of his attempt to build a perpetual motion machine and how that led to him becoming friends with Kent State's hippies. Kevin, hippies is a word that you don't hear too much anymore. Are there still hippies at Kent State?
Well, I don't know if you call them hippies. I'm just trying to call out their culture and say that it should be treated with respect.
Yeah, there you go.
That was what it used to be called. And so it's a way of calling out their culture and saying, show them some respect.
Do you think some of the original students that were involved in Kent State during those riots all those years ago are still with us, and do they attend the ceremony every year?
Some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of I think for a while, the parents of the Forest Lane students attended the ceremony. One of them were badly made a fool of for standing up for the ceremony of ringing the bell in the Commons at 12:24, and I think they still continue to come and keep contact, but eventually they got so frustrated with Kemp that they stopped coming because they wanted to forget the whole problem, you know?
Oh, gosh.
But I think that in Kent, Ohio, it's like the Republican Party has little honor. They, at least in Kent, they keep trying to cover it up. These days they're a little better. They're finally starting to listen to the students 30 and 40 years later, but if they'd have built the memorial right, they could have been healed a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have even had the protests I was talking about in 1990. Had they kept their agreement, they would have resolved the problem, healed the country.
How much of your journey, your spiritual journey, was influenced by friendships with those people who you are calling hippies?
Well, I think the first thing you learn is that you can't really judge a book by its cover, you know. And you can't judge somebody because they're sinful now, because there's redemption. It's complete. You get baptized in the name of Jesus Christ, you can be redeemed totally. So why should I judge their sins? God hasn't judged them yet. He's left redemption wide open.
Well, I think that might be the point the Pope was trying to make in trying to get the state of Georgia to not execute that woman yet this morning. This morning she died, right?
Well, I don't know what they should have done with that. I didn't study that issue, but I'll tell you what, I'm leaning towards the idea that we should put a moratorium on the death penalty. I've heard statistics a few years back that a quarter of the people who were on death row got exonerated sometimes after they were killed.
Yes.
We're getting prosecutors in some states that are so aggressive that they'll frame people just to look good.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens too. Yeah. So tell me about the perpetual motion machine and how that ties in with the story of the Battle of Fort Rock.
Well, I'll tell you what, some of the people that assisted me on the perpetual motion machine were people who would help me develop security if it worked, you know. It didn't work, but and then I ran into problems with people who were my friends getting hexed, or at least striking coincidences appeared to be that hex. So I had to develop a spiritual battle plan to fight for their souls. I vowed that none of my friends would ever get hexed again without a fight, and it stands today that way, you know.
And was that well received by others?
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know how that was well received or whatever. I think I made a lot of friends because I believe in the basics of Christianity. That was well received.
Gosh.
Do you know, I seem to remember the hippie movement being very Christian. I can remember like what we called Jesus freaks, right?
Yes.
Yes. I think Christians and hippies have a lot in common. You know, they don't realize it. They all want to have good friends. They all want their freedom. You don't believe it? Look at all the people fighting for religious freedom now who are Christians. They both reach out to people in need in different ways. Christians have more money in our country than the hippies do in many cases. And yeah, there are some hippies who are Christians, some Christians who are hippies. You can say it either way.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, is the whole idea in the book anyway? Is it to show us how to live or how to be saved?
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe it's a little of both, but I don't really preach salvation in it. It's how you live once you claim to be a Christian, I think, and that was a learning curve for me. You probably read some of it.
Well, and it's,
I made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
Oh, and we all have. We all have. But here's the thing. And okay, let me just. This is an easy thing to say. As an atheist who is just living his life the best way he can, trying his best, he gives to the organizations that should be given to. He treats others as he would treat himself. I mean, he's really living by the Christian principles. He just doesn't call himself a Christian. And he doesn't believe in the salvation through the sacrifice of Jesus. That doesn't play a part in his thinking, but he's still doing a good job. And I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just always wondering, it sounds like he believes as Jesus believed. Even though he doesn't believe in Jesus.
I think that it's important to believe in Jesus Christ because we need His grace to be saved. Our righteousness is
I believe that too, but
it's hard to understand, but some of this is just faith, you know.
So the Battle of Fort Rock, you actually go back to there was 4 students who died in 1970, right?
Yeah.
And so this all stems from that, and I didn't even realize that it resonated at Kent State to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even realize it was still resonating.
Yes, I have a friend named Alan Canfora, and he's still fighting the fight to get some things recognized. He still doesn't have a memorial built right, you know.
But you're saying, but you're also saying that the ceremony itself has been scaled back.
Well, the ceremony itself hasn't been scaled back. The memorial was.
Oh, the memorial was.
One or the other. Yeah, the memorial was scaled back. It was an original design that was going to be about $1.3 million, and it lost its meaning because they scaled it back and arrogantly cut off fundraising for it.
Oh.
You would think that some
talk with the hippies about it, and that led to a protest. And yes, they did disrespect their ceremony on May 4th, 1990. They wanted to have the memorial lunch at the same time that was traditional for the bell ringing on the Commons to remember the 4 slain students at Kent State.
Mm-hmm.
And the president of Kent State University had to back off of it, and they made it sound as if the Scheuer family should have known that.
Yeah.
Well, I read the letter, and I don't think they should have known it from reading that letter. I thought they were going to have that luncheon at noon too when I read that letter.
Oh my gosh!
In the back of my book, I have the letter that they were written. You can look, I think, in Appendix 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think you find the comparison of how I picked Schwartz apart in writing on the first letter, and then I have a Scheuer letter and a Schwartz letter. Read the Schwartz letter carefully, and I'll tell you, I think you'll get the idea that I could be wrong, but a casual reader, I think, would assume it would be at noon.
Wow.
Well, Dr. Schwartz said it was at 1:30 and made a fool of the Scheuer family, and I called a spade a spade. Well, think of how that raises morale. I'm a Christian conservative. I'm part of the establishment. I'm their friend, and I stood up and called Dr. Schwartz on something. That raised their morale.
Gosh.
Kevin, I have loved this interview, but it went too fast, so we have to wrap it up. Do you have a website so we can get the book?
Yes, where do you get the book?
Yeah.
It would be of course, it would be, it's Amazon.com, keywords, Kent State Hippies.
Kent State Hippies. Okay, The Battle of Fort Rock. Kevin Moody, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
From the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.